Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the law of attraction, manifesting success stories show comes in. If you are ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and we are back with more of my manifesting stories, which I am super excited about. If you've been following me for a while, you likely know about my Jimmy Choos. And if you are a little bit newer, you might not have heard this story yet. And this is just one of the stories that it's pivotal. It's such a good example. It's literally stepping in to my future self. And so I am excited to share it today. I actually pulled up the original article that I read. And so I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to do like a little post commentary about all of that and seeing that story, 4 or 5 years later. It's 4 years later, just how it's evolved and what's happened. And so I'm excited to share that with you today. I'm also excited I've been working on all of the interviews of my clients and the lessons that they have to share with you through their stories. And I am just so excited to release all of those, and I even have the ones that are now, I have 2 years of stories, and we're going to wait and we're going to release when we have 5 years of their growth. And I'm just so excited because there's so much power in seeing what happens when you continually put this focus and this energy, and you're marching forward in your growth, and you're just choosing to move forward. So much awesomeness happens. And so I'm looking forward to sharing those stories with you. And I'm looking forward to even seeing what evolves next in all those stories. And so that is super exciting for me. So stay tuned. We're actually going to start the year with 2 years of one of my clients. So that'll be really fun to see the evolution of 2 years. And then just so many more good stories that are being recorded right now, and in learning and how, when you're using the law of attraction or you're creating your own life, it just shifts and changes, and things open up that sometimes you always wanted, and a lot of times that you never saw coming, which is, going back to my Jimmy Choos, really something that I never saw coming, and yet was so pivotal and opening, and by the way, had a great return on the investment. So we're going to talk about my Jimmy Choos. If you have not yet registered for Learn How to Manifest Money virtually live virtual, I would encourage you to do that, as when you say yes, your energy gets put into the pot, right? And so all of the inspiration that comes as I'm planning and thinking, it has your energy in that. And that matters, because this is a co-creative process. While I have an outline, while I know what I'm going to teach you, and as I've said before, it's more than just teach you. We are going to do it, because there is a difference between learning the law of attraction and what maybe you should do or you want to do or works or is a good technique, and actually doing it and having someone there to guide you. And so you're going to learn, because you're going to learn how to do it, but you're going to learn hands-on. We're actually going to do it. It's not just me teaching you, this is what you need to do. We're going to do it. I'm going to teach you why. You will leave. We're going to create your own plan for 90 days. So if you want to come, you want to soak up how to do it, and then, you want to go do it on your own for 90 days, that's awesome. Of course, there will be an opportunity to jump into the Enchanted Circle if you want. But most importantly, you can come for the day, and you can learn, and you can create your own plan to go forward, to take forward into the world. And it's November 2nd. This is 2020 when I'm recording. So it's November 2nd, 2020. Or November 1st, I'm sorry. It's this Sunday. It's my freedomversary. I celebrate 2 days of my freedomversary, because there's that day that I left my job, and then there's that first day of freedom. And I celebrate both, because they're both important, and they're both significant, and they're both powerful. And so it's November 1st, it's Sunday. And you can find out more just by going to CassieParks.com, CASSIE Parks, PARKS.com, and click on Learn How to Manifest Money Virtual Live. And right there are the details. There aren't a ton of details because here's the details. You show up, we spend a day together, you, me, and other manifestors that want to manifest money. And we put our energy, our collective energy, in doing it, in becoming it, in stepping into the process while learning why it works and why we want to do these things. And you're also going to learn why some of the things that you might have been doing haven't been working. And we will create a path to set you on that success for manifesting money and learning how to manifest money, which is so fun. And by the way, I'm going to talk about a more than a 10% return on manifesting money today with my Jimmy Choos in a way that is not typical, or you know, so often it's so fun. I was interviewing, I'll give you a little clip, one of my clients yesterday, and I had her tell this story, which I love this example. And it's very similar to the Jimmy's, just different. And so she was sitting there and she was like, oh, I should order groceries. And, you know, she had the order all done, Instacart, and she looked at the fee, you know, and plus the 20% tip, which I love that she was tipping 20% plus the Instacart fee. And she was like, am I really going to spend this money, or I should just pack the kids up and go? And she said, no, like, that's crazy. Like, I'm going to take care of me. Like, they're kind of rambunctious and being kids, right? And taking them to the store might not be the funnest event. And so she said, no, I'm going to do it. And within 5 minutes of hitting that button and saying yes to ease, yes to taking care of herself, yes to making her life easy and feel good by saying yes to getting groceries delivered on Instacart, and by the way, helping someone else make a living, she got an Airbnb booking, which paid for her entire grocery bill, plus the 20% tip, plus the fee. And that is just so powerful. That return is amazing. And that's what happens when we start stepping in greater. And so when we're talking about manifesting money, it's not just, it's learning that whole process of how that all happens. And so we're going to set the foundation. Obviously, I can't teach you everything I know about manifesting money in one day because it has been a journey of years. And I can give you a really good start. We can create a lot of momentum and a lot of energy, and you can create your own plan to go forward, or as I said, decide to hang around and do it with me. But whatever, we're going to do it. We're going to create that energy. We're going to create that momentum so that you can open up to some of the, like, I'm going to talk about the Jimmy Choos today, and also the, you know, like my client saying yes to ease and grace in her life and manifesting money. So that's what's coming up. You can go to CassieParks.com and go to Learn How to Manifest Money live virtually, and that's November 1st. All right, let's jump into the Jimmy Choos because I love this story. It is one of my favorite experiences. Again, it's one of my favorite, like, this is my life and this is the journey of becoming. You know, I talk about stepping into your future self, and this is a way. So this is my 4th book. So this was in the process of stepping into my future self, right? I had started that future self work. I had been doing the workshop, but I maybe only done it 2 or 3 times at this point for other people. And so that gives you a glimpse into where we were. This was at the beginning of 2016. And I had done my own work, and I had been wanting to move into the 4 seasons. And I'm going to talk more about that in an upcoming episode. Probably the next episode, I'll talk about the journey and manifesting the 4 seasons and really how that opened up. But I had been on the journey to that. I had done that work. And I had gone to see a place at the 4 Seasons. And at this moment, I can't remember if that's the place I ended up. That is not the place I ended up with because I ended up with a different one. But I had gone. I was in the process of looking. And because I wanted to live at the Four Seasons, which I'll get into. And it was book launch time. It was time I was getting ready to launch my fourth book, and which is, in case you just want all the details, Marketing to Serve, which I love that book. And that book, yeah, it was that book. It was Marketing to Serve. And so I was getting ready for my red carpet book launch, and I was super excited about that. And I was super excited about, just the whole experience. And this was new. I believe this is the first where there was actually an in-person red carpet launch. And so I was super excited, and I needed a dress. So after I got done looking at the Four Seasons, I said, all right, I'm going to go shopping. And I'm not a person, this might change over time, but I don't know. I don't really love shopping. Like, it's just never been my amazing thing. Especially, I think part of it is, if you've listened to my story for very long, I used to do it as a quick hit. It was a way to feel good in the moment, but it didn't feel good in the long term. And there was a lot of money that I invested in shopping that I didn't love. And so once I learned that and realized that, shopping for me has become more practical. So, just not the thing that lights me up, right? Even like, oh, I get to go get a dress. It's just not the light. And I say that because I just set the intention, like, this is going to be easy, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be awesome. So I set that intention, and I went shopping. And I'm actually going to mostly read what I wrote because it captures that, right? So, I set my intention that I would find my dress quickly and easily. I think I even said it was going to be the first one I picked out. Letting intuition lead the way, I parked in a different place than I normally do, which was right next to Nordstrom's entrance. Cool, shopping mojo engaged. I walked in, found my way to the dresses, and within minutes, I had 2 headed back to the dressing room. The sales girls stopped me and added 2 more once I told them I was looking for a dress for my red carpet launch. There was pretty much no drama in the dressing room, which is becoming the norm. I did, in fact, end up buying the first dress I had picked up, which is key to the story. While modeling it, one of the sales associates asked what shoes I was going to wear with it, to which I responded, I'm going to go downstairs and pick something out. As I went downstairs and around the corner, I turned toward the shoe department, and my eyes saw purple, and I immediately headed over. There was a cool pair of purple suede pumps, and they would have matched. I'm adding this now. But they seemed a little too funky, but I was going to try them on. Even their clearance price tag read $97, which is much more than I spend on shoes. So that's important. For me, $97, that was gonna be my stretch, right? I saw them and I'm like, oh, they're a little funky, but they're purple and they're suede, and I think they would match, and so I'm going to try them on. Even though 97 was out of my comfort zone in that was a stretch, right? Which is usually more than I spend on shoes. I've just never been into shoes. It's never really been my thing, which is interesting. And so I always like to make that point, because I think when people hear about my Jimmy Choos, they often think like, oh, this is something you always wanted. This is not something I always wanted. This is probably like least thing I would ever have asked for was a pair of Jimmy Choos, which makes this story all the more powerful and interesting. So the guy with the magic microphone called out for someone to come get the shoe while I waited. While I was waiting, something inside took over and started pulling me toward the other side of the aisle. Before I knew it, I was in front of the most gorgeous pair of shoes I have ever seen. Then I looked down and I saw the name inside, Jimmy Choo. I might not be much of a shoe person, but I knew enough to prepare myself for the possible heart attack when I looked at the price. I tried to walk away, but I couldn't. And that was true. Like, that moment was I looked, I saw Jimmy Choo, and I was like, I'm not even going to look at the price. I'm not even going to indulge this idea that I might put these shoes on my feet, let alone walk out of the store with them, right? And I did try. I remember, like, as I'm reading this, I can remember getting like 4 steps away and coming back and looking, and then like trying to do it again and only getting like 4 steps away. Like, I can see the walkway, as tile versus the shoes were on a carpet, and, sort of walking the lane, and coming back and doing this more than once. And I just couldn't walk away. And I'm sure that the guy had come back with the purple shoes, and I was long gone because I was far from that rack, because I was, in the Jimmy Choos section. And I did what I would tell you to do if you're stepping into a more abundant version of yourself, which I am always doing. And that's still true today. That was true then. It's still true today. And it looks different today, right? Because of some of the experiences I had, but I'm always stepping into a more abundant life. And I decided that I had to try them on so that I would know what it feels like to have such an expensive shoe on my foot. I was practicing, right? I was okay. Like, I need to practice this. Like, maybe when I put this shoe on my foot, I will decide I'm someone who wants this, or maybe I'll decide I'm somebody who I know doesn't. But I should give myself the experience of what it feels like to have such an expensive shoe on my foot. I had the same feeling creep up that one of my workshop participants did the weekend before when I asked them to go out into the world as her future self. I had all these thoughts running through my head. I don't belong here. I don't deserve to put these shoes on because I'm not going to buy them. I'm sure this guy knows I'm not going to buy these shoes. Oh, he so knows I would never buy these. I should really just walk away. I don't want to waste his time. And those were the real thoughts that were going through my head. And I had done so much work. But even when we do the work, and I tell this to my clients a lot, as we grow, there's new levels of the work, right? So I had done the work and I could welcome money into my life. But this new version was like, having these thoughts about stepping into this even bigger piece of myself and who I was becoming. And I had all these thoughts, which I often tell my clients, like, these things come up at every level and we get to choose. Like, am I going to buy into I don't belong here, or I don't deserve to put these shoes on my feet because I'm not going to buy them? No, like, we get to choose whether we're going to buy into that thought that pops up in our head, or we're going to choose that we do belong there. And there's always a choice. It's because there's another level and another level and another level. And once we acclimate and we become and we feel like we deserve to be at a certain level, if we continue to grow and we continue to attract abundance and we continue to change the world and we continue to do all the things, have an amazing business, have an amazing house, do all the things that we want, there's always another level. And at first, we always, because it's new, we can have that feeling of not belonging or even not deserving. And I would say these things have shifted a little bit, but there's still like, do I deserve, like, do I get to have that? And when we choose that the answer is yes, that's when we move forward. And so asking the question or having the thoughts doesn't mean you're not doing the work. It doesn't mean you're not getting there. It means you are getting there and you're being given a choice to choose a new level and to say yes and to step in to a new version, a new level of abundance, a new everything. And then I made myself step into both shoes and walk around. Not just one. Like, I put both. I didn't just try one on and go like, oh, maybe this fits, maybe it doesn't. I made myself step into both shoes and walk around. They felt good, but I made up a reason why they weren't. I took them off and I tried to walk away again, but I came back because they were calling me. And at the same time that they were calling me, they still didn't feel like they were mine. The sales associate sensed my hesitation. Guess he actually did think there was a possibility I would buy them, and explained the store's generous return policy to me. Since I needed them on Monday and it was Saturday, I bought them. When I got home, I bought them like with the intention of, okay, I get to decide. right? I can take them now because there's no way I was leaving early on Monday morning. I think I had to be at the airport. So I would have to leave for the airport before the store was open, and it was Saturday. And so I said, okay, I'm going to buy them. I can bring them back. I can return them. They will give me a full refund, fully intending like not keeping them, but taking them home anyway, because I couldn't let them go. And this is an important part of manifesting, because we can just be in the moment, right? I'm going to take them home and knowing I can return them, giving myself full permission to not even change my mind, but just change my mind, do it differently. I guess that it is kind of change your mind, but there's something different about it, because I'm going to take them home and I'm going to give myself permission to say yes or to say no. And so in some ways it's permission to give myself more time, right? To feel into it longer, which is really a powerful thing when you're stepping into your future self, when you're stepping into anything. When I got home, I carefully brought them into the house and I left them in the box, still feeling like they weren't me. 1,000 thoughts about why it was wrong to own these beautiful shoes went through my mind. And when I read this today, I remember that, and yet there's two sides. I remember being that person, and I'm like, man, that is so crazy based on what those shoes gave you and how you've stepped into them, and the return on investment for them, how many pictures they're in, and how many opportunities you've given clients to try them on, and that added the pizzazz and the thing that they needed to, the growth experience that we were having. The thoughts that were going through my mind was, I could give this money away. That this is what I used to pay for rent, which is true. Oh, I haven't said it. These shoes were $750. $750. So at this time, it had only been a few years prior. So when I quit my job, which was a few years before this was 2016, and I left my job in 2013, the end of 2013. So just 2 years before that, I paid $800 a month for rent. $800 for rent. And I just bought shoes that were, with taxes, pretty much rent. And so that was the thought going through my mind. Like, this is what this compares to, right? And the other thought was like, seriously, I should invest this money into my business, and on about why I shouldn't keep these shoes, and about why, I shouldn't spend the money on them. And again, this wasn't a situation where I had long dreamed about Jimmy Choos, or they weren't on any vision board. This was nowhere in my list of I want these. And yet they called to me and I couldn't turn away from them. But I still had all the thoughts, even though my intuition was like, get them, get them, get them. And as I was reading the story, it really reminded me of talking about this story a couple episodes ago, where I manifested the $2,000 for the class. Like, it was something I couldn't do. And so the difference is that class I could justify because, it was about business, and I could, it wasn't about me deserving that. It was about, oh, this is business, which is a reflection of really where I was in terms of my self-worth at that time. But like, I can, I could justify that $2,000 pretty easily because it was going to make money. It was for my business. It wasn't directly for me, even though I was. It was for my business, which I had in that moment of that $2,000 investment hadn't integrated like I have now, the self-worth of like my business being an extension of me, and my business being my life, and my business like just it being me, right? But it was at that point, it was something that I was trying to build to become worthy, right? And so even though that 2000 I didn't have, and it was intuition, and it was all part of the same journey, and it's the same thread of learning. This is just the bigger version of it. Then I didn't have any of those things about, do I deserve this? Because it was about my business. My business deserved everything. This was about a $750 pair of shoes for myself, right? Putting something on my feet that was $750. And So all of these thoughts, this is what I used to pay for rent. I should invest this into my business and so on, and why I shouldn't keep these shoes was going on. And then I carefully opened the box and unwrapped the tissue paper and took them out and to try them on again. I put them on and walked around the house. Somehow they felt a little more like me, but I put them back in the box. I did. I wrapped them up, put them all in the tissue paper. An hour later, I pulled them out and put them on again and walked around. And again, they felt a little more like me. This time when I took them off, I moved my favorite pair of shoes, that was my current favorite pair of shoes, over, and I hung them on my crown molding shoe rack, which, is a piece of crown molding. I always put my high heels. You can Pinterest this, but, take a piece of crown molding and hang your shoes like art. So I had some high heels and they were cute, but they were never like my thing. I just would find a cute pair but I put them on my crown molding shoe rack. They got like the coveted favorite shoe place. And I wanted to see if they fit in my house. So I left them hanging in my room, sneaking in to take a peek every half hour. This is for real. I think it was just a chill night and I was, watching something and I'd get up and I'd just go look at them and then I'd go back to the living room. And each time I walked in and saw them, I realized that they do fit me. They do fit me. Actually, they are a symbol. They were in this moment in the past. They are a symbol of my future self. They were a symbol of my future self, the one who was soon going to be moving into the 4 seasons. Like, they really did represent that. And it wasn't that I needed those shoes to fit in to the 4 seasons. In that moment, what I realized is this is where I'm going. This is a huge symbol of where I'm moving towards, of who I'm becoming. And it didn't mean, because I think people get tripped up in this, it didn't mean like I was going to have a whole closet of Jimmy Choos. Like, that's probably never going to happen. I mostly don't wear shoes. So for me, the practical side of me that doesn't make sense, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how these are my Cinderella shoes anyway in a few minutes, but the longer they hung on my shoe rack on display, the more I realized that they were a symbol of the future I have been stepping into, right? I've been going into this place. And it wasn't just, it's a place where, the 4 seasons is so awesome, but it wasn't that I needed the shoes to fit in. It was that the people there could easily make the choice to spend $750 on shoes. And that's who I wanted to be, right? Is an easy choice. Not like, oh my gosh, but like if I wanted that, if I wanted anything that was $750, the choice was easy. And so hopefully that gives you a little more clarity. It was in no way that I felt like I needed these to fit in. They were just this symbol of where I was going. And they were a symbol that I never could have picked and I never could have saw coming because, as I've mentioned several times, I never wanted Jimmy Choos. That wasn't on my list. That was crazy to me, right? And which is interesting. It's kind of like the Tiffany's ring that's on my finger. Like, I could justify why I didn't want that and I wanted to invest the money somewhere else. And yet, thinking about the story and telling the story, I'm thinking about the ring on my finger and thinking like, oh yeah, that's the next level. That's who you're becoming. And you get to wear that every day. And so, as I said, the longer they hung on my shoe rack on display, the more I realized they were a symbol of the future that I had been stepping into. And quite literally, like, they're shoes. You can't get, thank you, universe. You can't get better. Like, there's no better symbol in this story than this. And then it was if they decided to keep me. Even though this whole time I felt like I was deciding, am I keeping them? There was a moment where it felt like they decided to keep me. And suddenly, I became the woman who owns Jimmy Choos. Now, if you've ever watched Sex and the City, you know something about that. We're currently watching Heart of Dixie, which is super fun. And in the beginning, they haven't mentioned it in these later seasons, but sort of the whole first season was like this theme of, I'm a Miranda, but I want to be a Carrie. And so if you ever watch Sex and the City, like, I assume all of those women had amazing shoe collections, but Carrie's was the best. And it was something about the energy of her, right? So it's about shoes, and of course it plays into her story and her learning and her money and all that. But there is just something about that. And suddenly I became this woman who owns Jimmy Choos. Like, I became different. And not because the shoes make me different, but there was something that shifted when I became the woman who owns Jimmy Choos. So I think I'm actually going to save what happens next for the 4 seasons episode. I'm going to save the return on investment because we're close to the half-hour mark. But so stay tuned for next episode where I talk about moving into the 4 seasons, and I will tell you the return on investment I got in those shoes. And I will say, so, when I invested that very intuitively way in the $2,000 course, I got 100% return. I got all the money back based on that intuitive investment. And as I stepped into my future self and this became about me, my investment was much more. And so I'll talk about that, and I'll share that in the 4 seasons episode. And I want to wrap up with just that these shoes, they've become pivotal. I really probably could get rid of every other pair. I don't own a lot of shoes compared to somebody who seems like they would own Jimmy Choos probably has a lot. Like, they're the one pair of heels I need, other than I would keep a pair to do like outdoor, like if there was an outdoor wedding, so that I wasn't putting my beautiful Jimmys in the, dirt, and having them be aeration systems. But they are so me. First of all, they paid for themselves easily, which is what happens when we follow that intuition. And when we choose to make that step into our future selves. They're in so many photo shoots. I've gotten to share them. Everybody, wants to see them when they come, and I take them out. And again, even people who aren't in shoes, because they have an energy, they have that story. And what I will tell you about my Jimmys is that they are truly Cinderella shoes. There came a time when I wanted to, I don't know, it was like when I hit a certain milestone in my business, I wanted to make an investment in me. And what I wanted was the tennis shoes that matched these shoes, like the tennis shoe version of these high heels, so that I could wear them more often. And I went and I tried them on, and they did not feel good, and they did not fit, and they were not for me. And I have tried on pairs of Jimmy since then, wanting to, I think capture this moment again, or step, I don't know, not really pushing and trying, but wanting to maybe expand that, right? Maybe to get one more pair, so that would be all I need. And like all I need in terms of all shoe occasions, right? Like, just let go of everything else. And what I will tell you is they don't fit. They don't fit my foot. And they only have one mold, right? Like, they don't make different shoes. Like, they have this is the, it's not a size 8 because they're European, but I think it's a 40 or a 42. Like, that's what it is. And whenever I try them on, there's no other pair that fits. And that is something that is unexplainable, because these ones fit and they feel good. And I wore them. I will tell you about wearing them in the next episode all day long at the book launch. But they shouldn't fit me, right? Because they are Cinderella. Like, they fit my feet. They're the only pair I've ever found that I can purchase, which makes this story even more special and significant. And the keys that I definitely want you to take away are this stepping into. But that comes after, I allowed myself to be led. I didn't just automatically dismiss it. I didn't just go like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to this $97 pair. I was open, right? $97 was my stretch on shoes. And And yet, I allowed myself to be led. And then I stepped in and I gave myself the time and space to step in. I didn't force it. And really, one of the things I want you to take away from this is that this understanding that it's not always about what you think it is, right? We do a lot of things, and even in my coaching, I'll say pick this out or do this or look for this evidence or pull in something that you think would be in your future self. And when we're open, often those aren't all of those things are creating the energy. It was creating this amazing energy and this amazing vacuum. And what I got was this opportunity to step into my Jimmys and the opportunity to have this story and the opportunity to see how they were a reflection of my future self. And by the way, gave me more than a 700% return. Told you that. I said I was going to wait, but we'll talk about it more in the next episode. All of these things are important and happen along the journey, and they're not things that you check off. These are the things that when we let go and we start allowing more, we can evolve. We can attract these experiences that help us step in, that take us to the next level. So I hope you have enjoyed hearing about my Jimmys. They are one of my favorite things because of the story, because of what they mean, because it was a huge journey to step into them. When I say I would go look at them, I would take them out and try them on and I'd put them back in the box. It's 100% the way it was, because I didn't feel like I deserved them or I should keep them. And I am so glad that I allowed myself the time and the space and the opportunity to step into them, because they made a huge shift in my life and they opened up a lot of things. So thank you so much for listening. I am looking forward to telling you about the 4 seasons next. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll be back next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Law of Attraction, Manifesting Success Stories show. To learn how to identify your current money story, go to identifyyourmoneystory.com.